Good evening to you. Today we're going to look at Hebrews chapter 12, the book of Hebrews. Continuing, almost getting through with it, but we're going to go and start in Hebrews 12. We discussed 1 and 2, but we will start there at 1 and 2 and go through the first half of this chapter. It says, "Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sins which so easily besets us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despised the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." I look at this and we can see something that it's hard for us to fathom. I mean, just hard for us to understand or even believe that Jesus, it says that he sat down before him. It says enduring the what? Enduring the wrath, the shame, despised the shame, but he sat down at the right hand. Why did he do that? Because he endured it. He did it for the joy that was set before him. That's hard for me to understand. But the joy that was before him. Now, the only thing that I can think of that even compares to this was through his pain and suffering. We know that the church and salvation was brought to all mankind, right? The only thing that I can think even compared to this is a mother giving birth to a child. I mean, now we have medicine and drugs and stuff, but let's face it, that's new. Always. Before this last generation and a half, when a woman gave birth, she had what? Did she have pain, brother? She had what? Pain. But they would have that pain and they would have that joy afterwards. I know in my younger days, I was with a lot of fathers. And the fathers, we would sit outside with them. They wasn't allowed to go in, but we could hear so oftentimes the screams and the pain and the agony that the women was suffering. And I know it's going to sound funny. I'm going to say enjoy. Because when they was able to go in, and I was to go in as a preacher, I would go in after hearing that, expecting to hear and see people still crying. And you know what they'd be doing, brethren? They'd be smiling. The women would be smiling. So many times I've had them have that baby in their arms, and they would say, "See how beautiful, see how beautiful." And tears of joy would come from them. I see this is the way that Christ feels for us, if that makes sense. Christ suffered, but he suffered for us because he loved us. God allowed him to suffer because he loved us. We need to realize that. It says, he goes on and said, we are to remember that. Then in verse 3, it said, "For concerning him who entered such hostilities from sinners against himself, lest you become weary and discouraged in your souls." We shouldn't be discouraged. Yes, we can be discouraged. If there's anybody that listens to me and they have never been discouraged, then next week listen to my sermon. I'm going to talk about lying. You need it then. Because we all can get discouraged. But we need to do what? Verse 5, it says, "And you have forgotten the exhortation which speaks to you as to sons." We have as to sons something that was said to us. We look at this and can see in Proverbs, he's quoting Proverbs chapter 3. We're going to read here in verse 5 and 6. It said, "My son, do not despise the chastising of the Lord, nor be discouraged when you are rebuked by him. For whom the Lord loves, he chastises, and scorns every son whom he receiveth." If you endure chastising, God deals with you as with sons. For what son is there? What son is there whom a father does not chastise? Now we look at this. We are talking about basically chastising. It's not the word beating, by the way. It's not that word. Chastising. That is coaching, encouraging is the chastising. You can do it better. You know, when I coached the Little League, I used to always have to chastise the boys and girls on the baseball team. Somebody said, "What do you mean?" Well, you can do it. Stand in there. Don't back up. You know, I had to sometimes say, "No, don't do it that way. Do it the other way." Was I getting on to them? No. Not in the sense of that. I was encouraging them to do it what? The right way. God chastises us. He chastises everybody because he wants us to do it the right way. And that's why we need to realize that. And matter of fact, and I brought this up in one of the lessons just this week, and I bring it up to you, God told us how to live in the Old Testament. He told mankind how to live. We had a hard time living up to it, so he said, "Okay, now I'm going to show them how to live." And he sent God, Son, he sent Jesus Christ to show us how to live. He told us, then he showed us. And we can listen, and I do. Romans, in 16, it says, at the end of Romans, it says, the things that are written beforehand was written for our learning, and there was. But then the thing that we have in the New Testament is Jesus, that's showing us how to live. And even sometimes how to die. Many people in the first century died at the hands of persecution. People today throughout the world in more than one country are dying because of persecution. But Jesus showed us, God taught us that yes, persecution may be part of it, but being with the Father is worth it. It says, "Therefore, we have had human fathers who corrected us, and we paid them respect." Did we not? Did you stop loving your father because he spanked you? I don't think so. I don't think so. Shall we not much more be ready and subject to the Father of spirit and life? We need to be subject unto him. For they endured for a few days, chastising us as seen best in them. But he, for our profit, that we may be partakers of his holiness. Do what? Has seemed better to them. For he, for our profit, Jesus was chastised. He was beaten. There's a song I love. You may have heard it. It goes, part of it, it says, he could have called 10,000 angels. He could have. But he died for you and I. He died for you and I. Now, no chastising seemed to be joyful for the present, but painful, needlessly, after it yield the peaceable fruit of righteousness to who has been trained by it. Brethren, hold up. We are going to leave here tonight on this subject. We need to be trained. We are trained. We can be corrected. We can be, if you want to call it, coached. If we can be, any word you want to use, but we can be and we are. Matter of fact, God's word says study. Paul told Timothy to be studied to show thyself what? Approved unto God. A workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. The book of Revelation to the 7 churches. They was chastised. All but one of them. They was chastised, but they was all told. They was all told, you can be saved if you would only listen to the teacher. And I pray that you will. I pray that all that's watched this video, that you will listen to the teacher. God be with you till we meet again.